Gautamam Deving Sarasatim Yasam Tato Jayam Dirayat. Before citing the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, let us offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of God and Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhu, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavata Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. By regularly attending the Srimad Bhagavatam class and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving devotional service unto the personality of God who is worshipped with transcendental songs becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're going to say a few general words about Lord Balaram, and then we will be reading from chapter 78 of Krishna book, which is obviously also the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. That's why we're glorifying Srila Vyasadeva. So, today's Balaram Purnima, appearance of Lord Balaram. In the Adi Leela of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, first chapter, it's mentioned that the Lord has two kinds of personal expansions. First of all, there's two categories of expansions, the Swangsa, direct expansions, and Vibhinangsa, which means also living entities. But amongst the Swangsa expansions, there are two categories. One is the Prakash Vigraha, which is those expansions of the Lord that look exactly like the Lord. No difference in features. That's called Prakash Vigraha. And then there's the Vilas Vigraha, those who look different from the Lord, although they're expansions of the Lord. So Lord Balaram is the prime entity, personality in that second category. And there's a verse there that mentions, it says, Yaitse Baladeva Paravyoma Narayan, Yaitse Vasudeva Pradumnadi Sankarshan. So these are the examples that Lord Balaram, he's Vilas Vigraha, and then he expands. We know Balaram is the first expansion from Krishna. And then from him comes that first Chaturvyuha, then the first Narayan, then the second Chaturvyuha, then the second Narayan, and then the Purusha avatars. So technically, you could say, because the Purusha avatars, they impregnate, Mahavishnu impregnates the living entities into the material energy. And he's an expansion of Balaram. So technically, you could say that we're all mini Balarams. We're all little samples of Balaram. So Balaram is obviously Satchidananda Vigraha, just like Krishna. But his name especially indicates strength, not necessarily material strength, spiritual strength, and spiritual happiness. So if we do an introspection, if we look at ourselves and we're not feeling spiritually strong or spiritually happy, then we have to work on ourselves, first and foremost. Prabhupada said if you're morose, then something is wrong with your practice of Krishna consciousness, not that something is wrong with the practice of Krishna consciousness. So, first of all, just like the British, I was born in Jamaica, which at the time was a British colony back in 1952. And the British have a lot of actually nice sayings, Prabhupada would quote many of them. So one of them is that charity begins at home. So we're supposed to be a preaching movement, but before we can go out and preach to others, we have to allow ourselves to be preached to. If you don't allow yourself to be preached to, primarily by your spiritual master, but one who's in the mood of learning, advancing in Krishna consciousness and spiritual life, can learn from anyone, anywhere. And therefore it said that one can take gold from a filthy place, one can accept a wife from even a lower caste family if she's qualified, and one can take learning from anyone who is qualified to teach. Not that, oh, this person was born in a Shudra family, so I shouldn't hear from them. No. If they have genuine spiritual knowledge that they can transmit, to pass on to you, then you should accept it. So charity begins at home. Before we can go out and teach others and preach to others, we have to allow ourselves to be preached to. And in our case, in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, that means ultimately you have to let Prabhupada preach to you, either directly by hearing his lectures, reading his books, or by hearing from those who have heard his lectures and read his books. Very simple. We don't need to go all over the universe. Because what are you going to find anyway? All over the universe. It's stated in the 5th chapter of the 2nd canto when Narada Muni is preaching to his disciple Vyasadeva. It says, Tasyaiva heto prayateta kovida nalabhyate yad brahmatamuparida kalyabhate dukkhavat anyatakshaka kalena sarvata gabhirangasa. It said then, Tasyaiva heto prayateta kovida. One who's actually intelligent, wise, kovida. They know that you can go all over the universe, upari ada, up and down all over the universe, chasing this, chasing that. But you'll find that there's no higher knowledge than what we're getting here. And also you'll find that just as you don't ask for misery, but it comes, your sukh will also come, your happiness will also come. You don't have to chase after happiness, this scheme, that scheme. Whatever happiness is due to you in this lifetime will come. Just as whatever misery is due to you in this lifetime will also come. You cannot stop it. You cannot stop the misery that's due to you by any schemes or plans, and you cannot stop the happiness that is due to you in this lifetime. So we don't waste our time chasing this and chasing that. We simply want to hear. So today, we're glorifying Lord Balaram. Now, Balaram's appearance doesn't mean that he wasn't existing at some point. No. Krishna is eternal. All of his expansions are eternal. We're eternal. There's no question of death, even for us living entities. Right? Najayate amirate vakadachin. We don't come into being. We don't go out of being. We're always existing. Eternal means always existed in the past, existing now, and will continue to exist in the future. That's what eternal means. So this computer is not eternal. There was a point in the past where it didn't exist. This building, this city. But you and I, all of us, we have always existed in the past, and we're continuing to exist in the future. So what to speak of the expansions of the Lord? There's no question of them not existing or going out of existence. So Lord Balaram has always existed. There's no question of birth or death. Just like Krishna says, Ajopisana vyayatma bhutanam isharopasa prakriting swam adishaya sambhavami. By my own internal potency, I come into this material world. And similarly, Lord Balaram, as his first expansion, by his own potency, by his own desire, he comes into this material world. So today I was asked to concentrate on the pastime of Lord Balaram killing Romaharshana Sutta. So we will read, that appears in the 78th chapter of the Krishna book, which is also the 78th chapter of the 10th canto. So we will read some from there. But the main takeaway, before we even start speaking, is that since today is Lord Balaram's appearance day, and since we're all mini Balarams, as we stated in the beginning, our consciousness should be totally focused on Balaram today. Everything that we do should be done as an offering to Lord Balaram, whether we're cleaning the temple, making nice balloon decorations like Mother Aditya did yesterday, or cutting up for, of course, if you're cutting up, concentrate on cutting. Don't think about Balaram. We were trained like that on Henry Street, because sometimes we would be in the kitchen spacing out or spacing in. There are two kinds of space cadets. Those who space out. For many decades, actually, I was carrying out the Harinam party in Los Angeles, and I would always remind the boys, don't space out, because we would go primarily two places, either Hollywood or Santa Monica, a walking street, Third Street Promenade. And devotees have a tendency, especially, of course, neophyte devotees, to space out, looking at the store windows, what's new in the Apple store, or looking at people going by, how they're dressed, and that's spacing out. And then they're spacing in. where you're walking along chanting Hare Krishna, but you're actually thinking about something you did yesterday or you want to do tomorrow, or spacing in. So try not to space out or space in. Stay in the moment. So today we should stay in the moment. Every moment we should dedicate to Balaram, whatever we're doing. Again, whether we're preparing boga or making the offering or dressing the deities already dressed so nicely, or whatever it is we're doing. Today we should try to dedicate to Balaram. So this is the pastime that I was asked to concentrate on. Lord Balaram killing Roma Harshana Sutra. Now, the atheists and even neophyte devotees can't understand. If God is all good and God is all powerful, just, how does he go around killing people? Isn't killing obviously bad? What kind of God is that? He comes into the material world and he kills people. They can't understand that, so they don't believe in God. I don't believe in a God who comes and kills people. But it's already established. Na jayate na mriyate va. Nobody actually dies. It's just a transformation that's inevitable anyway. As Krishna told Arjuna, all these persons that you're hesitating to kill, Bhishma, Dev, Dronacharya, they're going to die anyway. By my plan and by my energy as time. Kalosmi lokashayachet pravida. Lokan samahar tomitam pravida. By my arrangement as time, they're all dead. But you can take the credit for killing them. So when God kills, or God's expansion kills, or God's representative kills on the order of God, such persons are benefited. It's not like ordinary death. You step off the sidewalk, you get slammed by a bus, and then your karma kicks in, and whatever your karma is due to you, you're going to get. Most people get dragged before Yamaraj and then sent for hellish punishment. That's all not the same as when God kills you or someone kills anyone. So Lord Balaram, because he's the expansion of Krishna, and all of the expansions of Krishna, they have the same mission. Paritranaya sadhanam vinashaya chaduskritam. They come to rid the world of the demoniac influence and to protect and enliven the devotees and to reestablish Dharma. Dharma Sangstarta. They come to reestablish Dharma because Dharma gradually goes down, especially in this Kali Yuga. It goes down real fast. Whatever spirituality remains is not really spiritual if you look at it closely. You know, like people who claim to be believers in God and God's representative, but they're slaughtering animals every single moment of the day practically. Every meal they have to eat some dead flesh. So that's not real spirituality. That means they don't understand that every living entity has a right to live a natural life and die a natural death. And if you interrupt that cycle, you are punishable, you're culpable. So real religiosity goes on. Prabhupada said also, in this age, yeah, you'll hear the word Krishna and Rama, but they're saying that they are Krishna. I am Krishna. I am Rama. Worship me. Rascals. So we have to be trained how to distinguish who is a real representative of God, who is a real expansion of God. So Lord Balaram, the real Balaram, is not a fake personality. And he has come, same business as Krishna. Paritranaya sadhanam vinashaya chaduskritam dharma sangstapanam. Sambhavami yuge. He comes, when Krishna comes, Balaram comes. They were both here a little more than 5,000 years ago. And then when Krishna comes again as Lord Chaitanya, Balaram comes as Nityananda. Prajanananaye sachi sutta hoila say. Balaram hoila nitai. So, however, when they come as Balaram, when they come as Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya, business is a little different. When Jagai Madai attacked Nityananda, Lord Chaitanya was furious and he came in his chakra to kill them. But he reminded him, no, my Lord, in this incarnation you're not going to do that. Because if you do that, you have to practically kill all of them. So, no, we have come to deliver them. So the delivering process is what we are participating in, primarily chanting Hare Krishna, distributing prasadam, distributing the holy name, distributing transcendental knowledge. But when Lord Balaram and Krishna come, because they're the personality of God, they assert themselves. Surrender, or else. That's the mood of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He asserts himself. That's his natural position. He's the center of everything. But we've come here to imitate that. We all want to be the center of attention, of attraction, like that. But that's Krishna's natural position. So they, in the incarnation of Krishna and Balaram, they forcefully make you surrender. If you don't surrender voluntarily, just like Jarasandha wouldn't surrender 17 times, he was defeated and still wouldn't surrender. So Krishna, all right, well, I don't want to slaughter, let's just go and kill him personally. So he took Bhimasena and they, you know the story, they killed him. So we're going to read from the 78th chapter of the Krishna book. And let's see. Where are we? Here. Let's expand that. So this chapter, we'll go back to the beginning, and we're going to start reading a little ways down. But chapter 78 is the killing of Dantavakra, Vidurata, and Romaharshana. I think we can make that a little bigger so you can read along. How's that? A little bigger still? That's good? Okay. All right, now we're going to go, and it begins with, you know, Krishna killing Dantavakra and Vidurata, but we're going to go down to where Lord Balaram comes in. Okay, so here we go. Once upon a time, Lord Balaram heard that an arrangement was being made for a fight between the two rival parties in the Kuru dynasty, one headed by Duryodhana and the other by the Pandavas. He did not like the idea, and he tried to act as a mediator to stop the fighting. Actually, we know Krishna sent him to Hastinapur to try to induce the Kurus to not make this war happen. Stop. Don't stop planning. Just give the 5 Pandavas some, they're Kshatriyas, they have to rule something, give them some. But they were insulting. They insulted Krishna. The only reason why Krishna can use the royal paraphernalia is because we're allowing him to. So that was one incident where Lord Balaram showed his bala, his strength. He got mad at them. And to put them in their place, he took his plow, which is known as, what's the name of the plow? Haladar. Right? Balaram is known as Haladar because he's carrying the plow. So he took the plow and struck the earth and was dragging the entire city of Hastinapur. Who have you been to Delhi? That's about where Hastinapur is located. And he was dragging it towards the Ganges. So then they realized, uh-oh, we've made a mistake. So they did their best to pacify Balaram. So Balaram, he's a source of spiritual pleasure. But at the same time, again, in this, when he comes as Balaram or when Krishna comes as Swayam Bhagavan, they don't take any nonsense necessarily. They demonstrate their prowess. So that's one incident where he demonstrated his prowess. He was dragging the entire city of Hastinapur into the... Who can think of another time when he did something similar? In Vrindavan. Yes, he threatened Yamuna. Because Balaram, you know, he knows how to party. So he was having a good time with his own gopis. He has his own gopis. And he was drinking the Varuni beverage. So I'm sure today somebody's going to make some Varuni, yes? On Lord Balaram's appearance, we must have Varuni. Otherwise, he may not be happy with us. In LA, we also used to make, I'm sure they're making today, what's called Balaram cigars. It's like a pastry dough filled with a date jam, like a date jam filling. We call them Balaram cigars. You make them in the shape of cigars, you roll them. So Balaram likes his cigars and his Varuni. Make sure. At least Varuni has to be there if you don't know how to make Balaram cigars. So Balaram was showing his strength to the Kurus. But ultimately he decided he didn't want to be involved in the fight because he liked Duryodhana. Somebody may ask, Duryodhana was such a rascal. From birth, he was a rascal. As a child, growing up, He hated Bhimasen so much because Bhimasen was strong from birth. It's not that he went to the gym and became from birth. When Maharaj Pandu went to the forest with Madhuri, they had Bhimasen was there, so they were living in a cave, and he was out on patrol because he would keep the wild animals away. And some or other, a tiger roared and Bhimasen fell off the mother's lap as its baby, infant, and he was rolling down the mountain. But instead of the stones hurting him, he was breaking the stones. That's how powerful he was from birth. So Duryodhana hated him for his strength. And he tried so many ways to kill the Pandavas in general, but Bhimasen specifically. He tied rocks on him and threw him in a river. And so one may ask, how could Lord Balaram be favorable towards Duryodhana, such a rascal? Because the answer is, Lord Balaram is not seeing like we do. We're seeing each other as bodies, and you have so many physical and mental defects. He's seeing the pure spirit soul. And that pure spirit soul is corrigible, can be reformed, even if they have the worst habits. And technically, we may say what a bad guy Duryodhana is, but we're all technically bad guys as long as we're in this material world. With every breath, every step, every time we light fire, we're killing so many living entities. And that's why Krishna says, ahang tvang sarva papebhyo moksha shami. He didn't say if you become a pure devotee, then you don't have to, no. Even the pure devotees, when they walk, they may step on some insect or something like that. But because they're totally surrendered to Krishna, he takes the sinful reaction. Moksha shami, moksha chahat. Don't worry. Whatever sinful reaction you generate in your life, if you're my devotee, then I will take the reaction. Otherwise, Krishna wouldn't have to say that. If we don't get reactions because we're devotees, no. But even as devotees, we are due reactions for things that we do in this world while we're here. But Krishna says, if you surrender to me, sarvadhamam parityaja mamekam sharan, ahang tvang sarva papebhyo, I will take the reaction. And therefore you won't have to suffer. So Lord Balaram was seeing Duryodhana and the Pandavas equally as spirit soul. And therefore he didn't want to get involved in this fight. But Krishna wanted to rid the world of Duryodhana and company so that he could establish Yudhisthira as the emperor. So, finding it impossible and not wishing to take an active part on behalf of either party, he left Dwarka on the plea of visiting various holy places of pilgrimage. He first of all visited a place of pilgrimage known as Prabhu. He took his bath there, and he pacified the local brahmanas and offered oblations to the demigods, pitas, great sages, and people in general, in accordance with Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. So we shouldn't feel, yes, in this age, of course, the main ritualistic ceremony or the main ceremony to be performed is the chanting of Hare Krishna. But that doesn't mean that when we go to holy places, we shouldn't follow the custom of taking bath and of making offerings, giving in charity. Yagya dana tapakshaiva. Yagya should be performed, dana, giving in charity, and tapa, some kind of austerity, should be performed by devotees all the time. That is the Vedic method of visiting holy places. After this, accompanied by respectable brahmanas, no, not working. Okay. He decided to visit different places on the bank of the river Saraswati. He gradually visited such places as Pritudaka, Bindusara, Tritakupa, Sudarshana Tirtha, Vishala Tirtha, Brahma Tirtha, and Chakra Tirtha. Besides these, he also visited all the holy places on the bank of the Saraswati River running toward the east. After this, he visited all the principal holy places on the bank of the Jamuna and on the bank of the Ganges. Thus, he gradually came to the holy place known as Naimisharanya. How many of you have been to Naimisharanya? Put the hand up. Nobody here? Naimisharanya is still existing in India, and in ancient times it was especially used for the meeting of great sages and saintly persons with the aim of understanding spiritual life and self-realization. When Lord Balaram visited that place, there was a great sacrifice being performed by a great assembly of transcendentalists. Such meetings were planned to last thousands of years. When Lord Balaram arrived, all the participants in the meeting, great sages, ascetics, brahmanas, and learned scholars, immediately arose from their seats and welcomed him with great honor and respect. Some offered him respects by standing up and then paying obeisances, and those who were elderly great sages and brahmanas offered him blessings after standing up. After this formality, Lord Balaram was offered a suitable seat, and everyone present worshipped him. Everyone in the assembly stood up in the presence of Balaram because they knew him to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Education or learning means to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, although Lord Balaram appeared on the earth as a Kshatriya, all the Brahmanas and sages stood up because they knew who Lord Balaram was. Unfortunately, after being worshipped and seated in his place, Lord Balaram saw Roma Harshana, disciple of Vyasadeva, the literary incarnation of God, still sitting on the Vyasa-san. He had neither gotten up from his seat nor offered him respects. Because he was seated on the Vyasa-san, he foolishly thought himself greater than the Lord. Therefore, he did not get down from his seat or bow down before the Lord. So this is lesson number 1. And we also learned that from the life of Krishnadas Kaviraj. His brother was performing arti. If you're performing arti and a great personality comes in, you should stop and acknowledge them. If you're giving class from the Vyasa-san and a great personality comes in, you should acknowledge them. So this is lesson number 1 to be learned from this pastime. Lord Balaram then considered the history of Roma Harshana. He was born in a Sutta family or a mixed family, born of a Brahmana woman and a Kshatriya man. So there are two kinds of mixing of castes. One is called Anuloma and the other one is called Pratiloma. So Anuloma means if the woman marries a man of a higher caste, that's allowed. Generally people marry within the same caste, but if a woman marries a man of a higher caste, like a Kshatriya woman marries a Brahmana, just like, who can think of an example from Bhagavatam of a Kshatriya woman marrying a Brahmana? Devahuti, yes. Devahuti was the daughter of Swayambhuva Manu, so she was born in a Kshatriya family, but her father gave her to Kardama Muni, who was a Brahmana, ascetic, meditating in the forest. So that's allowed. That's called Anuloma. Pratiloma is frowned upon when a woman of a higher caste marries a man of a lower caste. That's frowned upon. That's called Pratiloma. So this is what Lord Balaram is remembering here. A mixed family born of a Brahmana woman and a Kshatriya man. So that's Pratiloma. Therefore, although Roma Harshana considered Balarama Kshatriya, he should not have remained sitting on a higher seat. According to his position by birth, he should not even have accepted the higher sitting position because many learned Brahmanas and sages were present. Lord Balaram also observed that Roma Harshana not only refused to come down from his exalted seat, but did not even stand up and offer his respects when Balaramji entered the assembly. Lord Balaram did not like the audacity of Roma Harshana and became very angry at him, declared from his seat, and becoming very angry at him, declared from his seat, quote, "This man, Roma Harshana, is so impudent that he has accepted a higher seat than that of all the respectable Brahmanas present here, although he was born in a degraded Pratiloma family." So that's why in our temples, since we're all Prabhupada Nuga's disciples and grand disciples of Prabhupada, we sit on a lower seat. We keep Srila Prabhupada on a higher seat. When a person is seated on the Vyasa-san, he does not generally have to stand to receive a particular person entering the assembly. But in this case, the situation was different because Lord Baladeva is not an ordinary human being. Therefore, although Romaharshana Sutta was voted to the Vyasasan by all the Brahmanas, he should have followed the behavior of other learned sages and Brahmanas present and should have known that Lord Balaram is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Respects are always due him, even though such respects can be avoided in the case of an ordinary man. The appearance of Krishna and Balaram is especially meant for reestablishment of the religious principles. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, the highest religious principle is to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srimad Bhagavatam also confirms that the topmost perfection of religion is to be engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. So as conditioned souls, we don't like this word surrender because generally surrender entails and engenders making yourself smaller than the person that you're surrendering to and being open to being abused. These are all facts because we're in the material world in Kali Yuga. People are abusive. They have no culture, no training. They just follow the whims of the moment. They don't know that it is in their best interest to surrender to the Lord. Nate vidu swarta gatemi vishnum durashaya ye bari artha vanina. Because they're on the mental platform, they don't know that it is in their best interest, artha, to surrender to Krishna, to surrender to God. So, yes, generally we don't want to surrender to anybody. But in the case of Lord Balaram, Lord Krishna, and their representative, the spiritual master, we must surrender. Otherwise, we're not going to make very much progress. When Lord Balaram saw that Romaharshana Sutta did not understand the highest principle of religion in spite of his having studied all the Vedas, he certainly could not support his position. Romaharshana Sutta had been given the chance to become a perfect Brahmana, but because of his ill behavior in his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his low birth was immediately remembered. Romaharshana Sutta had been given the position of a Brahmana, but he had not been born in the family of a Brahmana. He had been born in a Pratiloma family. According to the Vedic concept, there are two kinds of mixed family heritage called Anuloma and Pratiloma. When a male is united with a female of a lower caste, the offspring is called Anuloma. But when a male unites with a woman of a higher caste, the offspring is called Pratiloma. Romaharshana Sutta belonged to a Pratiloma family because his father was a Kshatriya and his mother a Brahmana. Because Romaharshana's transcendental realization was not perfect, Lord Balaram remembered his Pratiloma heritage. The idea is that any man may be given the chance to become a Brahmana, but if he improperly uses the position of a Brahmana without actual realization, then his elevation to the Brahminical position is not valid. So yes, anybody can be made into Brahmana. Yata kangshan sayati kangsham rasa vidana tata diksha vidanena dvijatvam jayate nranam. This verse is particularly pushed by Sanatana Goswami, that because even back then they themselves were considered outcasts because they were working for the Maletsa governor of Bengal. But he was pointing out that yes, anyone, yata kangshanata yati kangsang rasa vidanata. Just as bell metal can be turned into gold by an alchemical process that involves mercury, similarly, anyone, yata diksha vidanena, if you take initiation from a qualified spiritual master, then you can be transformed into even if you're born outside of Vedic culture, like Malachas, Yavanas, etc. Continuing, after seeing the deficiency of realization in Romaharshana Sutta, Lord Balaram decided to chastise him for being puffed up. Lord Balaram therefore said, quote, "This man is liable to be awarded a death punishment because although he has the good qualification of being a disciple of Lord Vyasadeva, and although he has studied all the Vedic literature from this exalted personality, he was not submissive in the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he's not the only one. Even today, there's still in India many so-called learned scholars. They know this Veda, that Veda. That's why in India you find people have the surname of Vedi, Dvivedi, Trivedi, Chaturvedi. That means they're supposed to know. If my name is Chaturvedi, I'm supposed to know all 4 Vedas. But some of them, they actually know the Vedic knowledge, but because they're atheists at heart, they don't recognize God even when He comes before them. Krishna, Balarama, like that. So therefore they're condemned. Such knowledge is condemned. Just like Roma Harshan is being condemned here. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, a person who is actually a Brahmana and is very learned must automatically become very gentle also. But although Roma Harshana Sutta was very learned and had been given the chance to become a Brahmana, he had not become gentle. So we should take this to heart. Another lesson from this pastime. Prabhupada said, my disciples, my followers will be known because you can see that they're ladies and gentlemen. So no matter what kind of ruffian background we came from, we should see that transformation taking place. And yes, you could say it will happen automatically, but you have to want it, first of all. If you're not desiring to be a lady or a gentleman, then you're slowing down the process. And you should actively try it. What are the qualities of ladies and gentlemen? We should know what they are, and we should try to live by such qualities. It may take time, we may slip from time to time, but gradually we should see how, because the living entity is by nature pure. All these good qualities are there naturally. They're just covered over. So if we purify our existence, purify means purified internally and externally. Externally by taking bath at least once in a day, we've discussed in previous classes. And internal purification by this process of bhakti yoga. And so if we're doing it properly and desiring the result, then we should see transformation taking place. Otherwise, as we chant every morning, Bahu Janma Kari Yadi Shravana Kirtan, one can go on chanting for many births and not get the ultimate goal, which is love of God, and if one doesn't avoid offenses against the holy name, and not just against the holy name. There's Nama Parad, there's Dhamma Parad, there's Vaishnava Parad, there's Seva Aparad. So many offenses that need to be avoided if we want to make progress. From this we can understand that one who is puffed up by material acquisitions cannot acquire the gentle behavior befitting a Brahmana. The learning of such a person is as good as a valuable jewel decorating the hood of a serpent. Despite the valuable jewel on the hood, a serpent is still a serpent and is as fearful as an ordinary serpent. If a person does not become meek and humble, all his studies of the Vedas and Puranas and his vast knowledge of the Shastras are simply outward dress, like the costume of a theatrical artist dancing on the stage. So there's that verse, Bhagavad Bhakti Hinasya Jati Shastra Japastapa Apranasya Dehasya Mandanam Lokaranjanam. Prabhupada recite this quite a few times. Bhagavad Bhakti Hinasya. Hina means without. So if we don't have devotion to Bhagavan, Bhagavad Bhakti Hinasya, then Jati Shastra Japa Tapa. Then your birth in so-called high family, Jati, Shastra, you're learning of so many Shastras, Japa, you're chanting of so many mantras, Tapa, and your austerities, all of them are useless. And it's compared to Apranasya Dehasya, Mandanam Lo. It's compared to nicely decorating a dead body. So Prabhupada would say, who does that? Ignorant people. Especially, he said, people in lower castes, like the Bangiwalas, there's street sweepers, toilet cleaners, and they deal with leather, muchi. But while they're working, while they're alive, they're dressed very dirty clothing. But when one of them dies, they spend money to dress up the dead body in nice clothes. And that's not just in India. You see that here all the time. Right? They have open casket funeral, and they dress up the body in nice suit and tie, or nice dress if it's a lady, and people go by but it's useless. It's a dead body. Why waste money? Just take it to the burning ghat and burn it. That's Vedic culture. Don't waste money on dead bodies. And those don't waste land on dead bodies. So much land in the United States and elsewhere dedicated to interring dead bodies. Cemeteries, in other words. Useless, waste of space and land. So, Lord Balaram considered, quote, I have appeared in order to chastise false persons who are internally impure, but externally pose themselves as very learned and religious. My killing of such persons is proper to check them from further sinful activity. Of course, anything Lord Balaram does is proper, but he's explaining to us why he's about to do this. Lord Balaram had avoided taking part in the battle of Kurukshetra, and yet, because of his position as an incarnation, the re-establishment of religious principles was his prime duty. Considering these points, he killed Romaharshana Sutta simply by striking him with a kusha straw, which was nothing but a blade of grass. If someone questions how Lord Balaram could kill Romaharshana Sutta simply by striking him with a blade of kusha grass, the answer is given in Srimad Bhagavatam by the use of the word Prabhu, Master. The Lord's position is always transcendental, and because he is omnipotent, he can act as he likes without being obliged to follow the material laws and principles. Thus, it was possible for him to kill Romaharshana Sutta simply by striking him with a blade of kusha grass. Lord Balaram ki jai. So we can stop here if there are any questions, any reflections. Yes, Narad Muni Prabhu. Can somebody bring the wireless so that everyone can hear?
Hi, Krishna Prabhu. Thank you very much. I was really appreciating this pastime with Lord Balaram and killing of Romaharshana Sutta because for some reason it reminded me also of the Brahmanas in the 23rd chapter of the 10th canto in Krishna book, who are describing, or who Krishna and Balaram are going and asking their friends to approach them to have some food, to feed them, and the Brahmanas ignore them in their service. And the Brahmanas are saying, after they realize the wives of the Brahmanas give all this food and offering to Krishna and Balaram in their sakas, and they're realizing, to hell with our Brahminical qualifications and our study of Vedic literature, because it was completely useless. We didn't actually come to the point of surrendering and realizing that Krishna is here in front of us. And I'm just thinking how profound of a point that is, that we can be here even in this movement under the guidance of Prabhupada, but not actually cultivating a mood of surrender. I was wondering if you wanted to elaborate on that or speak on that, but it's just such an
excellent observation, yes. Because Krishna doesn't interfere with our minute independence. So if we are, the external sign that one is serious about making advancement is that you judge by the association you seek. If you seek the association of more advanced devotees, then it shows that you want to make advancement. Once on a morning walk, Prabhupada said there are two things. There's seva and daya. Seva means service, daya means mercy. So seva goes up. So if you want to render service, you always have to find someone in a superior position, beginning with Krishna, who is in the topmost superior position. That's why we all serve Krishna. But even amongst the Vaishnava community, if you want to make advancement, you find persons who are on a higher level and you serve them. And then by being pleased with your service, naturally they become merciful, so the mercy comes down. So seva goes up, daya comes down, mercy comes down. And we all say we want the mercy, right? We all say, mercy, I'm seeking mercy. Prasada means mercy. So yes, the prasad that we eat, that's Krishna's mercy, but also we should look for association with advanced devotees so they may be merciful to us in two ways: by directly edifying us, giving us good instructions, giving us entrance, understanding the Shastras, and also by desiring our advancement. By desiring our advancement, because Krishna responds to the desires of his devotees. So I've always said when you go into the community of devotees, you can tell who's going to get Krishna's mercy, not by their position, current position, administrative head or head of this or head of that, but how much the devotees like them. If the majority of devotees in a community like a particular devotee, that person will get Krishna's mercy. Not necessarily by your position. So we have to be, again, proactive in seeking association of more advanced devotees to get them two things, to edify us, to share their experience, share their understanding, but also to be our well-wisher. That's why it's so significant. Prabhupada always signed, "Your ever well-wisher." A pure devotee can wish everyone well. We are not necessarily so magnanimous if we're in a lower state. I wish my friends well, my Harinam party members well, if I go out with them every day. It's natural. The book distributors naturally become friendly with other book distributors because they go out together. Harinam party, they go out together. Cooks in the kitchen, pujaris, it's natural. But as we advance, we learn to see everybody spiritually, just like Lord Balaram. He wasn't seeing Duryodhana as faults. He's seeing him as a spirit soul who can be encouraged to go back to home, back to Godhead. So that's what a preacher is. A preacher, under the instructions and requests of their superiors, they go out and gradually try to develop this mentality, this vision of seeing everybody as spirit soul. So it doesn't matter. Just like yesterday, some really rough-looking guy came in. I don't know if you noticed. He had a bunch of bags with him. He left them over by the door. Looks like he just woke up on the street somewhere, and he was going around the temple. But he was bowing down and putting his hands together, just following what the devotees were doing, just imitating. So in the beginning, yes, just by imitation, one can make quick advancement. Prabhupada said even just by, he said, if somebody thinks these Hare Krishna people are nice, they have a right to do what they're doing, Prabhupada said it will make spiritual advancement, just by not interfering and by wishing us well. Even if they don't chant, they don't eat prasadam, just by not interfering with the movement and wishing the movement well, they'll make spiritual advancement. What to speak of, again, this guy came in off the street, obviously, spent a few minutes, and one devotee escorted him out. I don't know, he didn't seem to do anything really bad, but, he was in the kirtan, he came and stood and looked at the deities, and he looked at me, and I went like this, and he said, like that? And I said, yeah. And so, just by establishing this is why Prabhupada created this International Society for Krishna Consciousness, that everybody can be given a chance to make spiritual advancement just by associating with devotees, even briefly. Lavamatra, Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Hoya. Is that okay? Anything else? Yes. Prabhuji, I don't know your name. I don't know your name.
My name is Damien. Damien,
okay. What's your
name?
My name is Arcita Das. Arcita Das.
Arcita Das.
Arcita.
Swami, so thank you for your kata. And when you were speaking about Balaram and he got angry, this anger that he showed, was it just external? Like, was it just he's performing his leela, he's not actually angry, or is he actually angry?
There's spiritual anger, but on the spiritual platform, everything is perfect and everything is good. So if Lord Balaram gets angry at somebody, it's for their benefit. Just like Narad Muni and the sons of Kubera, Manigriva and Nala Kubera. They were intoxicated, they were naked, they didn't respect him, and the young ladies they were with, they were also naked, but when they saw Narad Muni, they covered up, but these two guys were so puffed up and so intoxicated, they didn't. So Narad Muni became angry, but that's spiritual anger. And in the spiritual anger, he cursed them. You'll become trees. But because he's a pure devotee, coming straight from the spiritual world, this curse is also beneficial. So they stood as trees for a long time, but then they were liberated by Krishna. You know that Damodar Leela. He was bound to the mortar, and he used the mortar, dragged it between the two trees, and pulled them down. So the anger of a spiritual person is real, but it's spiritual. Prabhupada exhibited that many times. And the proof is that his anger is not destructive, not to himself or to the person that he's angry on. It's instructive and beneficial. So devotees quickly realized that when Prabhupada got angry at them, it was a benediction, and therefore they took it. They didn't, although some devotees said, I couldn't take it, Prabhupada's anger, and I wanted to run away. But for the most part, devotees gradually understood. Prabhupada's anger is not destructive, it's instructive. And so they accepted Prabhupada's anger. But some people didn't. When you're foolish, ignorant, once Prabhupada was at a Pandal program in India, I think it was in Surat, if I remember correctly. I wasn't there, but it's in the Lilamrita, you can read about it. And so one Westerner, some European guy, kept interrupting Prabhupada. You know, Europeans regularly go to India for spirituality because it looks cheap. You go there, you get some good hashish, you smoke, and you become spiritual overnight. Or you go to some yoga camp and bend your body into different poses and you become spiritual. So this guy was, one of those in India looking for spirituality, and therefore was lucky enough to come in contact with Prabhupada, but he was interrupting Prabhupada's presentation. So Prabhupada finally said, sit down and be quiet. And along with a lot of the Indians there, they didn't understand that, because for them, sadhu means everything's all right, just smiling. And Prabhupada wasn't that kind of sadhu. Guru means heavy. So he was heavy. Be quiet. Shut up. So a lot of them got up and left because they never saw sadhu like that. For them, sadhu means long beard and smile, everything is okay. You understand?
Yes,
so there's spiritual happiness, which is nothing that we can, have experienced on the material platform. And there's spiritual anger, there's spiritual jealousy, the emotions that we experience here, but they have their real counterpart in the spiritual world. And everything is good there.
Got it. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And also, when you visited
Naimisharanya.
Yeah. When you visited there, did you see Shaunaka and Sutta and all the brahmanas talking?
I didn't go there. I haven't been there.
Oh.
I haven't been to Naimisharanya yet. I've
But
been
you
going to
didn't go.
India since 1976, and I've been to many places, but not Naimisharanya yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right. There's no breakfast this morning. We could go on speaking, but I'm sure you have other services to do, even though you're not eating. So we can stop here. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Lord Balaram ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.
I need help.